Died. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could start making your way back in or make your seats, that'd be great. We'd appreciate that. Yeah, we need that bell. Righto, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for making your way back in. We greatly appreciate it. If you could all just band together and as celebrity chef Sam Burke promised that he was going to stamp our gastronomical passports with the trip around the world. A round of applause for Sam. Great delivery for lunch. Thank you. Great exuberance. Ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on the Producer Forum, the second session of today's proceedings, for those of you who weren't with us in the first session with RMAC, my name is Jeff Maynard and I'm your moderator for today's forum. In my day job, I'm a beef producer and a seed stock producer from Central Queensland at Jambin, and I'm also on the board of MLA. The event is also being streamed live at mla.com.au and through MLA's Facebook and Twitter platforms. To those of us joining online, a special welcome to you too. Don't forget that you can join the conversation via text. Please see the instructions below the video. Almost like Groundhog Day, really, isn't it? The theme for this year's program is Towards 2020 and Beyond, Fostering Prosperity in the Red Meat Industry. And that theme really encompasses what our next session is all about. Specifically, MLA collaborates with stakeholders to invest in research, development and marketing initiatives that continue to improve the profitability, sustainability and global competitiveness of the industry, the producers and the value chain partners within it. Earlier this year, MLA released a new strategic plan which sets out the company's investment priorities to achieve that goal over the years between now and 2020. The plan was developed in collaboration with MLA's government and industry stakeholders, and it closely aligns with the meat industry strategic plan and the Australian government's rural research development and extension priorities and its science and research priorities. This investment is contributing to an exciting body of work, and in this afternoon's session, I'm joined by some of the members of the MLA's management team who are going to report to you on just some of the... Our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, MLA's new General Manager for Research Development.
Thank you, Jeff. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to present today. And Sam, best job in the world once I deliver this, and hopefully I just haven't set myself up. Okay. Innovation 2020 deliverables and beyond for the long-term prosperity of this industry. And I'm probably going to cover off, or I am going to cover off on 4 topics. So it's how we consult with the industry and the people that develop innovations for our industry. I'm going to cover how we maximise the global money that's available to actually fast-track research development and uptake. I'm then going to give you a worked example of where a recent innovation is now ready for commercial adoption, and then hopefully tantalise you with some things that we're either currently working on or proposing to work on for the near future. So, consultation around innovation. We can't just listen to the industry about what its needs are and what its concerns are. We also need to consult with global leaders in their fields. You know, that could be the medical industry, it could be the military industry, it could be the health industry, to actually get an idea of what might also be possible. The other thing that we need to do is make sure that we're communicating very, very well with our industry on how we're investing all of our R&D activities to show that there's no overlap, to show that things are strategically aligned. And this year we're going to open up our internal R&D 2-day thought process and culmination process to some people from our peak industry councils and other support organisations that support MLA doing what it's doing. So we're actually going to run that as a pilot this year, open an internal process up to some external audiences, get a little bit of feedback and understand if that process actually worked well for those external audiences, how else might we use that approach to continually and increase our engagement on reporting back to industry how R&D is going and what the impact is. And then finally, I mentioned we've got to be relentless at trying to find those global solution providers and leaders in their fields. And it's not just from our meat industry. If we just try to get the ideas out of what people in our industry are thinking about, we will not be as prosperous as we could be. One of the things I'm very focused on, and I've got my new team that I've now got focused on, is I'm saying stop thinking about the producer research dollar as your only means to come up with ideas. Just forget about that. Put that to one side. Think about what is that idea that's going to change this industry. Then work out how much might that take to realise it. Work out who will get the value out of that, and then let's structure the best funding mechanism around that. And some of the ways that we make that happen, if you look on the screen now that I've brought it up, is that my colleague Dr. Christine Pitt will talk about the MLA Donor Company in her presentation. And we get commercial solution providers to come in with their own cash and their ideas to actually leverage off the levy research dollar that we have. We work in collaboration with AMPC and the processing sector through a program that AMPC has called the Plant Initiated Projects. And once again, that attracts processors to invest their own money, along with some levy money, processor levy money, for the benefit of the whole value chain. We have collaborative innovation programs, and that's where we sit down and work through a whole value chain with a company about, well, what is an innovation program specifically for your company? Now, we work with them to understand what that is, and then we will support initiatives that fall out of that actually add value to the whole value chain or the whole industry. Rural R&D for profit. We've been very fortunate with the federal government announcing this money available for rural R&D and profit. I'm going to give you an example soon of how we use that. To date, there's been 2 rounds that MLA and other participants within our value chain and support organisations has been successful. We've been able to attract, by leveraging, up to $58 million worth of R&D activity for a 5.3 leverage on that. So that, once again, that's a really great example of we just wouldn't be able to do those projects to the extent we're trying to do without leveraging other people's resources. And then finally, I believe we're still limited. We are still limited to what we could achieve because of the money we're able to attract. And that's not about increasing a producer levy or asking more from the incumbents within the value chain. It's looking around the world and saying who else has got money that we can tap into for the benefit of them and the benefit of us. One of the programs I would like to talk about, and specifically one within that, is our whole of value chain objective measurement program. So we're looking up and down the entire value chain and saying, where are we using smart sensors? Or where can we use smart sensors to get some digital information, some objective information that can add value either to the holder of that immediate bit of equipment or share that information up and down the value chain. And the one I'd like to talk about on my next few slides is that the industry recently has been hearing about lean meat yield or DEXA grading. So the one I'm going to focus on for the next few slides is what is this thing called DEXA grading? And here hopefully comes the first video.
So again, DEXA scan through Measure Up. So DEXA scan provides you information of how much body fat you've got in your body, how much muscle mass you've got in your body, your bone density content, and also provides a full macronutrient breakdown of what you should consume to maintain, or if you need to reduce body fat or increase protein, fats and carbohydrates, and total daily calorie intake requirements. So we had a nutrition seminar with Will and Ali. So they came in, everyone brought their report along, which had their full macronutrient breakdown. And they basically gave examples of food to consume to try and hit those targets. We linked up with the mobile app, MyFitnessPal, so you can basically punch in your daily intake and it kind of tells you exactly protein, fat, carbohydrates a day to try and hit a DEXA scan. So a lot of guys and girls can get caught up with the weight on the scales, whereas this scan gives you exactly how much muscle mass you got, how much body fat you've got. Yeah, we had a bit of fun with it as well. So, we obviously had the initial scan and we're having the post scan. So, put a bit of money on the line, pre and post, body fat reduction, muscle mass increase, and that kind of relative change.
So I'm hoping in that video there was something for everybody to have a look at. And one of the key messages, I reviewed that a lot to make sure it was perfect before today. So one of the key messages for me in there is he mentioned that it's not just about weight. If you just measure weight, you limit what you can do with your body, especially if you're trying to tweak and hone in your body for a specific market, let's call it that. The other thing is an important takeaway for me, and I hope you can take it away, is this is not new know-how. This technology here has been in the medical industry now for at least 5 to 10 years. And it's really interesting, I think, that now gyms are actually offering it as a service. So it's come out of the medical field, it's now going into the health field, and you can see programs here where people are getting DEXA scanned. If I go to that next slide, so just down the bottom, they're getting a result that says, in this part of your arm, this is how much meat, fat and bone you've got. So it's not down to the muscles in your arm, it's just saying in this arm quadrant, that's how much meat, fat and bone you've got. And then they're programming what those people are then eating and what exercise they're doing to try and change those proportions in their body. And when we talk about lean meat yield using DEXA grading, in essence, it's a simple term that we try to use. We're not talking necessarily about saleable meat yield or what lean meat yield is. We're just trying to say we've got a technique that can measure meat, fat and bone in a two-dimensional form of an animal, or of a carcass, I should say. So just like that chart on the bottom left-hand side, we have the ability to provide feedback for producers to use, for processors to use, for feedlots and genetics people to use, to say if we can take a 2D image of an animal, we can tell throughout that part of the animal what that meat, fat and bone content looks like. So it's not down to primal level just yet. And I guess the frustration for me is it's out there, it's in the world. What we're trying to do now is we're doing what I call confirmation research and development. We're trying to work out what are those algorithms that takes that existing know-how and makes it work for our industry. And so where are we up to on that journey? In lamb, we've pretty much come to the conclusion of that journey from a sort of a confirmation R&D perspective. Now, it's a bit like an engine in a car. We've got this engine and we will continue to tweak that engine and get better fuel efficiency. So it's not necessarily that the R&D will stop, but we're now ready to get these systems into plants and keep monitoring and tweaking them and wringing the neck out of them for the benefit of this industry. But if we don't get them in plants, we can't do that. You can't get fuel efficiency in an engine if you're not driving it and tuning that engine map. So that's ready to go, and we're actually looking for a couple of business models at the moment on how do we get industry to adopt this fairly quickly. The thing I need to stress to everyone in the room is if we just monitor lean meat yield and you give that feedback, however you then reward on that feedback, we may actually drive the industry in a direction that's not healthy for it. We need to balance meat, fat, bone measurements with eating quality measurements. And apparently the pork industry fell foul of this quite some time ago. They went on the quest for muscle meat and forgot all about eating quality. So in lamb, unfortunately, we're a little bit far behind where the grading, the lean meat yield grading technology is up to. MSA is currently working on some cut-based metrics for eating quality around lamb, and definitely in our rural R&D for profit project with AMPC and a few other people in the industry, we're looking at, is there some objective measures we can also provide on eating quality? But it's a bit like when the PCs first came out. You don't need to wait another 5 months or 6 months for that next best PC to come out. Let's just get the one we've got now and use it for the right reasons. So where are we on beef? Beef's got a little bit of a lag time on lamb. We've put enough through our, and once again, this is confirmation R&D. The technology works. We're just trying to put enough animals through to work out what's that right algorithm to then get the information back that we're after. So beef's a little bit lagging behind. We've just recently, as an industry, finished putting another 500 carcasses through the beef R&D system. That's about all we'll do on that R&D system. We now need to get a commercial system in a plant and put 800 or 1,000 animals through. And we can't do that easily on the R&D module that we've got. So we're currently working with a processor at the moment to actually get the first full-scale beef system installed into a plant. Hopefully that should be up and running in February, March next year. And then we imagine this will be ready to mass roll out the same as the sheep one. And then we're a little bit more fortunate in the beef side. So we've still got that, let's not just talk about lean meat yield, we need to talk about eating quality. We've got MSA sitting there. So we can give producers and processors feedback on lean meat yield and eating quality at the same time. But also we're looking at, are there some online objective measures to help enhance or help give input and more information around eating quality. And you'll hear us talk about stage 1 objective carcass measurements. When we're talking about stage 1, it's about getting these DEXA grading units into processing facilities for both beef and lamb. And stage 2 and 3 and 4 and up to N will come online as they're ready. And that's definitely looking at the eating quality and a few of those other aspects. So we're constantly scanning the internet, reading papers about, you know, what does the future might look like, and we came across this article very, very recently, which was, you know, what aren't we seeing at the moment that's likely to be out there in a very short period? And there were 72. We've tried to categorise them into categories because the list would have been way too long to fit on that screen. And if we run an analysis across, well, what are we doing in those spaces? Are we being dormant? Are we being ignorant to what might be possible? To our pleasant surprise, or a pat on the back to my team might be a better way to say that, they've got it all covered one way or the other. Now the 3 I've greyed out, I'm going to do 2 videos or 2 or 3 videos on there, and my colleague Dr. Jane Weatherley will be talking about our digital strategy, so one of them slots clearly into there. But the ones that are black there, we're definitely doing work in that space as we speak. And maybe, you know, if I survive today and you let me come and back talk next year, I can maybe talk about some of those black ones next year. So let's move into the first one.
These service personnel, playing the role of an unruly mob at Georgia's Moody Air Force Base, are about to fall prey to an invisible ray. The hulking panel atop this Humvee is part of what the U.S. military calls the Active Denial System, or ADS. It's designed to incapacitate enemy combatants with an unnerving, non-lethal sensation of intense heat. Watch as the ray silently strikes and scatters the crowd.
That millimeter wave energy comes out an aperture underneath the main reflector, hits the subreflector, which illuminates that main reflector, and sends a roughly antenna-sized beam downrange.
The electromagnetic radiation released by the Active Denial System is similar to the microwaves in your microwave oven, in that it causes the water molecules in the target to become excited and heat up. But that's where the similarity ends. The ADS is designed to heat only the very surface of the skin. It does this by outputting only the carefully chosen radio wave frequency of 95 gigahertz. Even though it can easily penetrate clothing, the ADS generates a much shorter and safer wavelength of radio waves than those used in microwave ovens.
The Active Denial System millimeter wave directed energy beam reaches 1/64th of an inch into human skin. So that is the outermost layer of the skin, roughly equivalent to about 3 sheets of notebook paper.
Even these stoic servicemen, aware of what's about to happen,
engage,
can't help but flinch when they feel the heat.
This is the first time I've experienced the beam from the active denial system, and it feels like an intense warmth feeling, kind of similar to opening a very hot oven door, and it's a compelling feeling that you want to get out of the way of this beam.
So just like a cool microwave at home. And everywhere you read the literature about this, the best explanation I see is it's that concept of you cooking that beef roast on a Sunday. You just crack open that oven a little bit to see how it's going, and you get that rush of heat, and you're sure when you look in a mirror, your face is going to be burnt, but it's not. So it's that sort of sensation. Now, I reckon there's 3 clear applications for this. So one is doing performance reviews with staff. I just can't wait for that. Number 2 is imagine a world where every bit of mince or every primal leaving a processing facility gets zapped with this thing, and we'll use zap loosely, it is no different than microwave, and then it's put into a sterile bag. Would it eradicate all of our food safety concerns on product leaving Australia? And then a third application, and I say this very, very loosely because I'm trying to get my head around it myself, but if we were to have an outbreak of some sort of external disease on an animal that's a micro thing, could you actually treat animals if they were a little bit inoculated with this sort of concept? So they're the sorts of things we're thinking about. Now, we've had one go at this. If the measure of success was to create the world's fastest barbecue to char a steak, we won. So we killed a bit of steak in less than 10 milliseconds. The learning from us on that one was the hardware we picked wasn't quite right. So we're just in negotiations with another company in another part of the world who we think's actually got the right frequency range to actually have a go at this. So I'd be hoping if those conversations go well, within the next 12 months, we'll know whether we're on a winner with this one or not.
The latest EDS standards demand innovative technology to meet stringent screening requirements. While airports demand high-speed automatic detection with low operating and maintenance costs. A technology leap for aviation security, Rapiscan real-time tomography uses a stationary gantry with multiple X-ray sources for fully volumetric imaging at high speed. The RTT Innovative Stationary Gantry means no moving parts, which minimizes downtime and keeps maintenance costs low. As an inline system, the RTT can accommodate both 0.25 meters per second and 0.5 meters per second high-speed screening, flexible enough to fit into any baggage handling system, new or existing. Rapiscan Systems, the leader in security, performance, and value.
So why is this one relevant? I spoke a few slides ago about this DEXA grading work we're doing. Every one of those animals that we DEXA grade, we put through a medical CT scanner. That's how we work out our algorithms to really tune that engine that we've got. Ideally, we would put CT scanners into every plant, every feedlot, if we could afford it, every property that we possibly could. But at the moment, they're either not cost effective or not designed to operate in our industry. And for about 7 or 8 years now, we've known that the baggage, the aviation security area, has claimed to have a CT. But we were never sure whether it was a fancy way of saying they had an X-ray with some colourful pictures or it was truly a CT. And believe it or not, it's taken about 7 years, but about 6 weeks ago, a colleague and I got some clearance to run some meat through, and that's our, on the left-hand side, that's our photograph there, through one of these systems just outside of Gatwick Airport. So we can actually confirm that these things are CT. They don't shut down. At the moment, you could put a 1400 millimetre wide part through, so we'll easily do a lamb carcass. This company's got a concept to develop a CT system for a whole shipping container. So the things we're starting to think about is, can we actually make these ruggedised for our industry over the next 5 to 10 years? Could you put them into a feedlot, for example, and actually check of every animal that went into a feedlot? And maybe one day we could have them on farms as well.
It just so happens that I have such a machine here. It's called the Meta 2. Let's try it out. Now in front of me right now, I can see the audience, and I can see my very hands. And in 3, 2, 1, we're going to see an immersive hologram appear, a very realistic hologram appear in front of me of our very glasses that I'm wearing on my head right now. Adam Ghazali's Glass Brain Project, courtesy of UCSF. And as a neuroscience student, I would always fantasize about the ability to learn and memorize these complex brain structures with an actual machine where I could touch and play with the various brain structures. Now, what you're seeing is called augmented reality. But to me, it's part of a much more important story. A story of how we can begin to extend our bodies with digital devices instead of the other way around. In about 5 years, this is not the smallest device, in about 5 years, these are all going to look like strips of glass on our eyes that project holograms.
So what's the potential for this one? Imagine that CT scanner on the previous slide in a feedlot at induction. And all of a sudden those induction employees have got the internal image of that animal coming through that induction process and can see diseases or defects. Could maybe get a readout of what that animal should be fed for its next period in that feedlot. Imagine in a boning room, we've got DEXA scanners, we've got CT systems. We can't automate everything, but your operators have now got these glasses on their hands and they can actually see where the seams are and increase yields through processing plants. And the project we're just about to kick off with Tom Wiley's company, Wiley, who's in the room today, is actually say, how could we apply this know-how to grading of carcasses? So could you have 2 red meat chips on your red meat colour as a human, and these glasses tell you whether the left or the right one's the right colour? So they're the sorts of things we're thinking about, and we're just about to engage in an area on that now. So just in wrapping up, I reckon there's lots of great tension in what I do. If tomorrow's not around, then I won't be able to get some of these big ideas out there. So definitely we've got a tension internally of doing sufficient R&D for the prosperity of tomorrow, but also making sure the industry exists for at least another 5 or 10 years for some of the stuff I've got up there. It needs to be longer than that, but I've only got 5 to 10 years stuff up there. Consultation, we just can't listen to people inside the value chain to what their problems are. We need to listen to them, but we can't stop there. If we're not bringing ideas from other industries, from experts and leaders in their field, we'll miss opportunities. Who would have thought the aviation security industry might give us a solution? Who would have thought Donald Trump's defence force would give us a cool microwave? We've got to get more money to do what we do, and that's not asking the value chain for more money, it's looking around the world and getting more money that way. We are just limited to what we can achieve by our budgets. It's not our imagination that's limiting us, it's our budgets. And that causes tension. Innovation in progress. For some people, this is going to be scary, too fast, what are you doing? For other people, they're saying, bring it on, you're too slow. So that's a great tension to balance as well. And then finally, we've got to work with other industries. So I'm looking at some stuff that's happening in the poultry industry at the moment because they've got some really interesting solutions to animal welfare that I'm looking at how could we adopt that. And then the other attention for me, because I do have the best job in the world, is I enjoy it so much, I probably don't see as much of my family as I probably should, but it's a great tension to have. So I'd just like to thank you all for your attention. Hopefully I haven't freaked anyone out too much. I think the world's a very exciting place and this industry is a fantastic one to be in it, to deliver it in. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sean. Certainly some thought-provoking and interesting stuff. Already I've been thinking, I hope they don't bring in Dexter body scans for MLA board members. I bet the other 8 or 9 wish they didn't either. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, where am I? I've lost the thing, but next up, ladies and gentlemen, we've got... Sorry about that. The body scans put me off. A subsidiary, the Donor Company, ladies and gentlemen, is a subsidiary of MLA, as MDC as it is commonly referred. Earlier this year, we actually appointed a full-time CEO to head up the Donor Company, and her name is Dr. Christine Pitt. The Donor Company is a vehicle for attracting commercial investment from individual enterprises and others for innovation that will benefit the industry. Every investment is matched by the Australian government. Every dollar is matched by the Australian government. MDC programs of work have been worth about $30 million a year, but having the potential to double that MDC is playing an increasing role, particularly as MLA's levy revenue has reduced in line with the reduction in our national beef herd. Within this context, Dr. Christine Pitt will share with you how the MDC is accelerating innovation in the red meat industry. Please welcome Dr. Christine.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you for all of you in your attendance today. So just like Sean, today I want to share a vision of the future with you and to demonstrate how MLA Donor Company, or MDC, is working with industry to accelerate the realisation of that vision. So let's imagine a future together. I think Sean's already done a good job in helping us to stretch our imagination even further than we might have otherwise been able to. Let's imagine that if by 2025, satellites could calculate what your feed on offer is and allow you to use this information to predict livestock growth and best turn-off dates. What if by 2025, all Australian meat processing companies were fully automated and that the cost of production here was the lowest in the world? And just imagine if by 2025, Australian value-added products were receiving a 5 times premium of any other red meat in the world. These are just some of the goals that we are working on in the MLA Donor Company. So today I'll cover 3 areas. What is MDC and how does it work? I'll share some examples with you of activities that MDC is investing in, and I'll let you know about a new opportunity that we're really hoping you will get involved in with MDC. So what is MDC and why is it important that you understand what we're doing? Well, as Jeff said, MDC is a fully owned subsidiary of MLA, and it's a big part of MLA's total expenditure in R&D. Our job is to increase voluntary investments in innovation over and above industry levies. And as Sean said, to leverage this amount to accelerate the achievement of industry priorities. This year, in 2016-17, MDC's expenditure is forecast to be $73.8 million. This is about 46%, or almost half of MLA's total R&D expenditure. It's made up of $36.9 million of voluntary contributions from our MDC partners, and then that's matched by $36.9 million of government matching funds. There are no producer levies in the amounts that you see on the screen. All of MDC's investments are directed towards achieving the priorities set out in the Meat Industry Strategic Plan, a plan that was developed with input from more than 400 industry stakeholders. Based on this plan, MLA has developed 6 pillars for investment, and the amounts that you see on this slide show how levy R&D investment is spread across each of these areas. When you add MDC investments to these very same strategic pillars, you can start to see how important MDC is in helping industry achieve a much greater impact. Over the past 16 years that MDC has been in operation, we've been able to already attract significant investments from a wide range of partners, not only in Australia, but also internationally. And these investments have already delivered many benefits to industry. It's really important that you do understand that the outcomes of all MDC projects are available for the whole industry to benefit from, and they are not exclusive to MDC partners alone. Our independent performance review for the period of 2010 to 2015 indicated that for every dollar invested by MDC, $4 in benefit is delivered. This equates to more than $15 million returned to the industry in this 5-year period alone. However, the performance review did indicate that some of you are confused or even unaware of MDC. So we're committed to doing a better job at communicating what we do and making it easy for you to find information about MDC. We've always been open about MDC and reported our activities within the MLA annual report and annual investment plan. but probably this has been where some of the confusion has arisen. This year, if you haven't seen it already downstairs on our stand, we produced the first ever MDC annual report. It's available in hard copy, or you can also download it from today from our website. This year we are also going to produce an MDC strategic investment plan, so you can see some of the things that we're planning for the future. And I expect that this will be available early in the new year, and I look forward to receiving your comments and feedback. On our website, you can also find many examples of MDC case studies and direct links to final reports for all MDC projects. So hopefully I've taken some of the mystery out of MDC. At our stand downstairs, we've also produced a simple, easy-to-read brochure called MDC Accelerating Innovation, which covers most of the things that I've just explained. So now let's have a look at some of the activities and projects of MDC. Most important to understand is that MDC invests in projects along the entire value chain. As we know, this is the best way to support industry's long-term prosperity and to deliver benefit back to producers. In 2015-16, MDC invested more than $6 million in projects that were aimed at improving on-farm productivity and profitability in a range of key priority areas. One of our best-known MDC projects is the Beef Information Nucleus, or BIN project, which is a partnership co-investment with a number of breed societies. The aim of the BIN project is to deliver more accurate estimated breeding values, to validate gene markers, and to provide producers with the confidence that you need to select animals to meet your requirements and be fit for purpose. The project has already delivered results, lifting EBV accuracy for feed efficiency from 30 to 45% to more than 90% for some size. The success of the BINS project will be carried forward into the new National Livestock Genetics Consortium, and we've already received more than $30 million of project proposals under the MDC mechanism for this initiative. In the processing sector, MDC projects are also starting to achieve success. Many of you will be familiar with the world-leading lamb boning system that is already operational in lamb plants in both Victoria and here in South Australia. These robotic solutions have delivered between $1.30 and $4.20 in increased value of the lamb carcass as a result of improved operator safety, improved efficiencies, people efficiencies, labour efficiencies, better product hygiene, and improved and increased yield. These benefits, as Sean mentioned, will now be extended to beef, with the first automatic rib cutting machine now installed in partnership with a Queensland beef processor. Reducing costs and efficiency in the processing sector is critical to our industry's future and delivers important security benefits to producers. MDC will actively continue to seek co-investment from processing companies and technology providers to continue this important work and achieve these goals. At the other end of the value chain, MDC is actively engaging in projects that grow demand and improve the value of the carcass by transforming lesser value cuts, developing convenient and red meat-based snacks for time-poor consumers, investing in smart packaging that will increase shelf life and protect us against fraud and substitution, as well as solutions that underpin traceability throughout the whole value chain, and digital technologies that connect consumers directly to our products. One such MDC-supported innovation was on display at LambX earlier this year. It's a new vending machine concept co-funded with a Victorian lamb processor. The Flavour Station produces ready-to-go heated lamb dishes in less than 2 minutes and has been road tested on 5 different meal solutions. We can expect this technology to be commercially available in Australia and Europe within the next 12 to 18 months, and we'll be able to see it in venues ranging from offices, universities, airports, railway stations, sporting events, tourist attractions, and many more. The machine will not only introduce new consumers to our product, It will also create new opportunities in markets such as the EU, where cooked products can bypass some tariff restrictions. Only Australian product will be used in these vending machines. And finally, I'll touch briefly on a number of MDC industry engagement programs aimed at building capability. This year, we will be upgrading one of our flagship initiatives, known as the Collaborative Co-Innovation Program, and today we are launching 2 new modules within this program. You can find these prospectuses downstairs. This one is called Tomorrow's Food, and it's an extension of our value-added products and packaging program. And this one is the China Insights to Innovation, which will be targeted at those enterprises that want to grow very high-value opportunities in the China market over the next 2 to 5 years. In addition, we're attracting new talent to the industry through partnerships in the Young Food Innovators program, and also starting to work much more with entrepreneurs and startups who are seeking to introduce disruptive new ideas in the ag tech, food tech and food innovation space. And as part of that program, as Sean was saying, we are looking globally for investors who are keen to work with us on those sorts of initiatives. I'd now like to finish my presentation with an invitation to you to become more directly involved in MDC. We're developing a new MDC program called Producer Innovation Fast Track. This will be launched in the next 12 months. It will be a 12-month pilot launched early in the new year. But today I'm going to share a bit of a sneak preview with you. The program's designed specifically for innovative producers who want to accelerate profitability and growth in their businesses, but may be a bit frustrated either by lack of resources and talent, hard to find information and expertise, and most importantly, lack of capital to invest. So does this sound like you? Anybody? We're looking to give you a bit of a clue. Somebody's put up their hand. That's good. Take your name. We're looking at 3 different scenarios. Firstly, those producers who are keen to adopt new innovations to optimise performance on their farms. We're very open to ideas, but we think that these sorts of producers will be interested in things like genetics, new seed varieties and improved pastures, sustainability and animal welfare, on-farm automation such as drones and smart tractors, new sensors, digital solutions, decision support tools, and so on. Secondly, we'll be looking for producers who want to engage more directly with consumers, either through their own brands or with new products, or via closer linkages and exchanges of information along the value chain, right through to end customers, creating a true plate-to-paddock experience and story. And finally, we're very keen to partner with entrepreneurial producers who may even want to develop some of their own ag tech solutions or new startup companies. We've been surprised and excited by some of the fantastic ideas producers are already bringing to us. Ideas that will not only improve their own businesses, but through commercialisation, they can deliver and help other farmers. We met yesterday with a group of very passionate producers, some of whom are in the room, and they were from all over Australia. We're very interested in working with producers to co-develop this program. We believe this is an important step because we want to make sure it's designed to meet your needs and that it delivers and helps to solve real problems and create real value. We'll be releasing more details of the program over the next month, but some of the services that we expect to offer will be co-funding to help de-risk projects, access to expert resources and coaches, support to build skills within your own team, customised information and toolkits, participation in producer innovation networks in Australia and internationally, market insights and in-market immersion activities, and as I said, incubation for new ag tech solutions and ventures. This program will build on existing MLA extension activities, but it is intended to be a truly fast-track experience that will accelerate and extend innovation in your business in completely new ways. Participation in the 12-month pilot will be exclusively for MLA levy payers, but you can involve others if you choose to do a group project. Acceptance into the program will be on a competitive basis, and we'll be looking for forward-thinking projects that will clearly accelerate profitability and growth. We believe the Producer Innovation Fast Track program is a major significant development for MDC and a game changer for producers, and we're really looking forward to getting started on it. So in summary, what I've hopefully achieved in my presentation today is to help you better understand who is MDC, what do we do, and who do we partner with. I've talked about how MDC projects are across the entire value chain and how leveraging an additional $70+ million a year will help us tackle the big industry problems much faster and with much greater impact than if we were just to rely on levies alone. And finally, I hope I've got some of you really excited to become part of the Fast Track program. The future that we're all imagining is possible. And I believe that if we work together, we'll be able to achieve this reality for the benefit of our industry. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Christine. I think it was a great presentation. Most of you may or may not know, but Christine's had over 30 years' experience in red meat research, not only that, managing projects. So her knowledge and experience is invaluable. Personally, I'm very pleased that she's actually got the CEO job of MDC. So, no, well, when she finishes. Don't cut yourself short, Christine. We've got big plans. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, the board has this year also expanded the remit of NLIS Limited and appointed a full-time CEO in the name of Dr. Jane Weatherley to manage the transition to a new company with responsibility for streamlining the management of Australia's traceability and quality assurance programs. As well as that, the very important function of the new Integrity and Information Systems Company will incorporate the management of big data through any potential value chain digital strategy. Please welcome Dr. Jane Weatherley.
So I am standing up. So welcome everybody, it's really lovely to see you all here today. So I'm here to present to you on the power of our information and the evolution of our integrity systems. So what I'm going to do is there's 3 parts to my presentation. I'll start by just reminding ourselves of just why Australia prides ourselves on our integrity systems. I'll then move to take us forward in terms of what we might do with those integrity systems to make sure that we stay ahead of the game. And then finally, I'll give you an idea of some of the initiatives that we have got going now to keep us ahead of the game. So I guess the question is, why do we pride ourselves on our integrity systems? And a really great place to start is the story that many of you have probably heard before, is what happened in 2003 around Christmas time, where there was the first case of mad cow that was found in Washington State in the United States. So it was found in a Holstein cow from a Canadian property, and as soon as it was detected in Korea and Japan, both immediately banned US imports of beef. So in Japan, Australia was able to capitalise on America's loss and gained America's share. So we went from having around 50% of the overall quota to up to 90% overall. So you'll see that in the graph there in the green, that's Australia's share. And also in Korea, we were also able to really capitalise on that opportunity. So our market share went from around 20% and increased to almost 80%. So the impact for the US was absolutely devastating and lasted for over 5 years. Their export sales fell from a value of around $3.8 billion to around $1.4 billion in just 3 years since when the ban was implemented. So it wasn't until about 2008 that the US gained entry back into Korea. But this re-entry was not met with considerable backlash from the Korean population. So while it was highly staggered process for America to re-enter the country, this was really met by thousands and thousands of protesters who came in with their anti-demonstration protests about the reversal of the ban. The Korean government was accused of lifting the ban in far too much haste, giving the US unwarranted concessions so that Korea would get favourable reception in the free trade agreement negotiations that were going on at the time. Now, the demonstrators argued that the president had really lost his sense of duty of care for his people by ignoring their concerns about mad cow disease in their beef. So I guess the end of that was the US have actually regained access and back in business in those countries. However, they have not restored the level of imports that they would like and that they used to enjoy. So I guess the events like the mad cow outbreak in the US is a really good example of how Australia has the ability to really capture the opportunity, and a really great example of the value of our integrity systems. Value's also been measured just recently in our recent 5-year review and the evaluation results. So our integrity program, which is National Livestock Identification System, Livestock Production Assurance, and also our vendor declarations, covers all our activities relating to traceability. Traceability and on-farm farm safety, and also the farm safety research programs. Most recently, the independent evaluation, which assessed the current and future benefits of our livestock traceability and disease status free, was valued at $355 million to industry. And that really reflects the importance of our key markets that we trade into, which is the United States, Korea, and also Japan. So the benefit of our clean and safe and natural image is also valued, and that put an additional $107 million onto making the total value of these integrity systems of around $462 million to industry. And that came back with a $56 million investment from ours of a return of around 8.3 to 1. But I guess it's really important that we don't become complacent around it all, which certainly we're not. People do want to know more about the products they're purchasing, and Frank Carbone last night really outlined great examples of that. So as our supply chains have become more complex, foodborne illness outbreaks are occurring probably a little bit more frequently around the world. Many food companies are really moving towards improved traceability and wanting the ability to rapidly track product from farm, right from the farm gate, right through to the consumer. More and more in markets like China, there is an expectation of consumers to really link that, be able to access that information using the QR codes or the quick response codes that we see everywhere now to really get to know their farmer and get to know their food. So moving towards other systems that are being implemented, other red meat producing companies are catching up to us in terms of their integrity systems. So Australia has indeed led the way in our robust integrity systems. However, many of our country's competitors are ramping up their systems too, which potentially diminishes our point of difference in some of the markets. So Uruguay is a great example, who have just initiated their own Never Ever program, and that's their certified beef program that they're putting into the US. This is their protocol and their guarantee that beef ends up on the American market, their beef that ends up on the American market with this label on it has never received antibiotics, has never received hormones, and it hasn't received proteins of animal origin. Another example that many people have probably heard of, it's been around for a while now, is the Red Tractor program. And this is now the largest program in the UK that sets the farm and food standards overall for animal welfare, for food safety, for traceability and environmental protection. So the Red Tractor label signifies and has broad scale awareness right around the world that to customers it really does signify that that food has come from a trustworthy source. So we do need to really be on our game. We need to be seeking new opportunities. So I guess what we need to do is really start to think about how can we start to capitalise on the great integrity systems that we have and take them to a new level. So let's just have a think about that and really understand that, I guess, potentially the answers lie within the data and the infrastructure that we have already. The starting point is for us to really start to map out the key problems that we have and we're going to have in 5, 10, 15 years and beyond, and then start building the solutions and start building them quickly. So we have a number of problems, many of you be aware of it. Paperwork is our immediate challenge. Is there agreement in the crowd here that that is a bloody issue? Yes, yes, yes. So indeed, this has been recognised for quite a long time, and we are actually moving towards looking at how to address that. And certainly the work that we're doing in developing up the ENVD is one where we will have a fully electronic system that's available, so your vendor decks will be available on commercial apps. So there's a number of commercial solution providers now working on those and soon to release those for industry. This system is going to really improve the industry integrity traceability systems, how our vendor decks work, and also really tracing our animal movements more accurately. It has the potential to link with other programs such as MSA, our PCAS program, health statements, and also RFID technologies. And interestingly, this system has been estimated to likely save industry around 5.8 million a year. But to those who actually do like the paper system, and there are some, we certainly won't be getting rid of those in the near future. I guess the other problem, which is quite significant for our producers, is that there's a hell of a lot of information that's being thrown at you at any one time. So different things like MSA feedback data, we've got livestock data link, we've got market information, you've even got weather reports, and it's all coming in from different mechanisms at different time. The list goes on. So where are we going to start with it all? Well, it all absolutely starts now in terms of really getting our act together and to start consolidating our integrity and information systems. The first step was really addressed in the recommendations from the Safe Meat Initiatives Review, which was released last year, which stated that all of our integrity systems needed to be put into and managed in one company. So that's obviously happened, as Jeff introduced. So we've formulated the Industry Integrity Systems and Information Systems Company, which has commenced operation, and we've got NLAS is already sitting there, but we're also transferring LPA as we speak. Now, given the industry really needs to stay ahead of the game, the company was also given the remit to really take on the industry value chain digital strategy. To kick this off, we commenced through an industry forum in Brisbane about a month ago, where we had 300 industry delegates from Australia who were there to listen to global and Australian, international or global and Australian experts in the field of digital ag about what some of the opportunities are. We also had a workshop after the day after where we had around 90 participants, mainly producers in there, who also started to scope out what industry problems are and what we might seek to find in digital solutions. So ultimately, the company will be driving the digital strategy overall. And as I said, at the forum, we had quite a number of really interesting speakers who presented the opportunities for a digital strategy. So let's just have a listen to some of the things that they had to say about that.
Australia is a world leader in dryland grazing, and I can't see why there's any reason that Australia couldn't also be a world leader in dryland grazing technology.
There is no reason we can't be a world leader in ag tech, but we're not at the top of the podium at the moment.
Data, how do we share it, how do we leverage it and get more value out of it.
So you make a decision to send an animal to the feedlot or not. You make a decision to send the animal this week to processing or not. They're the decision points, is actually where the data systems don't intersect today, so we need a solution to that.
Whether it's through your paddock sensors, whether it's through new technology with cattle, whether it's through your new water and other infrastructure technology, knowing the value of your operation at every moment and accessing that.
So MLA's role is to connect what we have and then build on that and allow the industry and stakeholders and entrepreneurs and anyone else that can build apps to give a value proposition back to industry.
In the future, what will happen is you'll decide how you want to eat. You'll put that into all of your devices, probably controlled by your smartphone, controlling your connected kitchen, your connected home, your fridge, your smartphone, your smart toilet.
And this is near future. This is not a million miles away. This is right now.
The customer is still the king, and everything we do has got to add value to the customer.
There are lots and lots of technologies coming out in the marketplace at the moment, lots and lots of demand coming from China and so forth, and the world is moving at a fast pace.
You don't try and select the right problem to solve. You start solving 2 problems at a time, work on them, deliver on them, select the next 2, and that's how you build momentum.
The first thing we should do as an industry, as the red meat industry in Australia, is embrace new technology. We've got to be at the forefront of this because everybody else will be. Because otherwise, new proteins, new technology will take over our position on dinner plates around the country.
In the digital world, expect surprises. There will be a surprise, there'll be another surprise. So your strategy has to move forward. You have to do things, but you have to expect to be surprised and respond to that.
But if we really want to move ahead and make a difference and keep ahead of the rest of the world, now is the time to be acting.
Now is the time. So apart from the opportunity of a smart digital toilet, I think that there's quite a number of great messages out of that for us. So in terms of recognising we absolutely are world leaders in our farming systems. The technology is everywhere at the moment, it's coming at us everywhere. But we need to start to look at how we can embrace it. We need to start connecting what we already have. It's a huge opportunity for us. And we're not, we're not really there yet in terms of really understanding what digital ag can do for us, but absolutely now is the time. So I guess digital ag, for me and probably for a number of people, is a bit of a mystery. We don't know what to expect. It will be disruptive, absolutely, and will change how we operate as an industry. But as an industry, we actually do have a good history of really implementing really innovative, disruptive systems, and NLIS is just one of those examples. And it was probably, had a lot of teething problems and was hard in the outset to really get it off the ground, but overall, what a gem it's turned out to be for our industry, really securing a lot of those valuable global markets and some of the premiums. But we need to get cracking and do something. We can't just keep talking about it. So where we've begun. What we're doing is there's 3 projects that have been on the go for some time now. It's all about services that are going to improve our producer access to a lot of the information and ultimately try to help to make your life easier. These are the single sign-on project, the My MLA project, and also the upgraded prices and market information. So let's just have a look at those. Single sign-on. What a great idea. In terms of, so when you want to access your industry systems now, you're not going to need multiple logins or usernames, multiple passwords where you have to have the list that's on the wall and you're not sure which one it is. You're only going to need one, which is absolutely just fantastic. So that's all about to happen, probably early in the new year. But that's really been developed in response from a lot of strong feedback that we've had from our producers. In terms of My MLA, now this is a bit of a more customised component of the current MLA website. It offers the relevant information that's based on your user location and your enterprise. So it's delivered through your own personal dashboard, which the user can customise to your own preferences. And it also offers a much more unique and individualised experience for producers when you want to actually find information. It's hopefully going to be there more readily. Finally, prices and market report. There's been some great work done helping to upgrade those information systems. It's a much more interactive market information analysis service that you can now access. You can access through the MyMLA dashboard or also through the prices and market section of the MLA website. Certainly aim to be much more user-friendly, designed to help our producers to make much more informed decisions, but most importantly, it's also accessible from a multitude of devices that you have available, so your smartphone, tablets, and which means you can actually locate it anywhere, anytime. So the great news is, very exciting, that you'll get an opportunity to see these actually in action this afternoon. There'll be a demonstration immediately after the forum at the afternoon tea break. So if you come downstairs and join me and Matt Peacock, who'll give the demonstration, you can actually get a sneak preview of what they really look like and how exciting they are. So that's pretty much me. In terms of where we've landed, we certainly have a great industry that is a world leader in our integrity systems. Still got a lot of work to do though to stay ahead of the game. We have data and we have the infrastructure and we have the mandate from industry to really crack on with a value chain digital strategy. But we are actually starting now. So making life easier for our producers through improving our access to our integrity systems and also our MLA information. So thank you very much for your participation today.
Jane Weatherley, ladies and gentlemen, has had many years of experience in the red meat industry. Now, congratulations, Jane, on scoring the CEO position. Certainly invaluable and very pleased you're there at the helm for the integrity systems going forward. Our final presentation will be from Michael Finucan, MLA's General Manager of International Markets, who will discuss global consumers, customers and competitors securing Australia's place on the plate. Very topical given the many recent developments in our major markets and the escalating competition from the United States and Brazil. Please welcome Michael.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. So today I'm going to look at some of the opportunities in our global markets. We know the long-term outlook is very strong. However, we need to navigate the mix of complex challenges that are out there. And to do that, we need to develop good data and insights about our customers, our consumers and the markets. And today I'm going to take you through a few of those insights and how they reflect on some of our opportunities. Sorry. So we know that Australian red meat's enjoyed around the world. There's a mix of countries and customers that eat it in different formats, different cuisines, different religions and different cultures, and we've got to understand that mix. But first of all, just a quick snapshot of where we are today. So for the beef sector, it's been a very tough year in the international markets. We're short of supply due to the rebuilding that's going on here in Australia, so 21% down on total exports, and that's having an effect in some of our key markets such as the US, China and the Middle East. And we're looking at a situation where we've got opposing forces and some strong headwinds. So a key indicator of global beef prices is the 90CL or the manufacturing meat price in the US. And over the last 18 months, that's been coming down. While at the same time, while our Australian herd's been rebuilding, we're seeing the Australian cattle prices at record highs. And while that's great for the Australian producers, we've got to keep looking at what the global factors are that are driving the trends and keep our eyes on those and what does that mean for the future of our situation going forward. For the sheep industry, you heard from Jeff, things are very positive there. Our global markets are performing very well. Some of our markets are down a little bit, but overall the lamb industry is travelling very well internationally with some strong performances. So how do we analyse all these markets? What are the factors we look at? So the first thing is we've got to understand those global megatrends, economic data, populations. We also need to then drill down, look at our customers and how do they purchase the meat, what perceptions do they have of Australia and how does that influence their decision making? And also our eye on the competitor. So what's the competitors doing? Where are they infiltrating our markets and how do we react to that? So we do that using a whole range of resources. First of all, looking at the population and income. What's global population doing and how their income's changing. The red meat meat flows, where's meat flowing around the world, how's that impacting our markets, our customers and the consumption patterns that they're following, what trends is going on. And most importantly, and you heard this morning, market access is critical. So let's start off with the world populations. You know, there's a huge world of opportunity out there, and there's some really big numbers on that screen. So, you know, China at 1.3 billion, Europe close to 700 million, and the US 300 million, and Indonesia 250 million. Some really big populations and great opportunities. But for our product, what does that mean for us, and how do we understand those opportunities? So when we look at those markets, we need to understand what the household income is. What the key driver for a preference towards red meat is their annual income, which is, we see through our research that about $35,000 a year average annual income is a key driver for a shift in proteins. So we look at that number, and when you look at that across the world, we see still some really great opportunities in Europe and the United States. But you look at China and that comes back significantly, reflecting the developing nature of that market. Same with Indonesia. But there's strong growth in those sectors. So we're seeing some really good potential growth in that middle class, in that income bracket, the $35,000. We're seeing growth across the world with some really good opportunities and some strong growth in those developing nations. But we also need to look at what the consumer's thinking. So we know that price and convenience is a major driver, but what are their attitudes towards meat? And there's a lot of markets and a lot of detail up there, but I'll just point at a couple of them to give you a bit of an insight. So when we're looking at developing markets, the consumer there, when they're looking at the retail shelf and what proteins to buy, they look about the easiness of how to prepare. So is it familiar to me, and does my family like that meal? So am I familiar with cooking, and is it familiar with my customs? So easy to prepare is key in those developing markets. Whereas when you look at some more developed markets, it's my family's favourite. So you're purchasing based on what your family's wanting to eat on a weekly basis. So we need to understand those trends and how that influences our product in the market. We then drill down another level and we go and look at how is our proteins comparing our beef and sheep meat in those markets. So just, I'm not sure if you can all read that, but I'll just take you through a couple of examples. Japan and Korea, these are key markets in North Asia for us. However, they have strong domestic Wagyu type products, and where we're seen as we're cheaper than that local product, but we're seen as an affordable everyday beef protein for the housewife. Whereas in developing countries like China, for our beef and sheep meat, we're the most superior. It's a developing nation. The local meat sector is not as sophisticated. And in those countries, we're superior. We're an imported product with better quality and better systems. So understanding that helps us position ourselves in those markets. For sheep meat, there's some great opportunities out there, as we've heard, but we've also got to understand that it's relatively unknown in some of our largest markets. So the US, it's a very minor protein, and they're not familiar with it. So looking across the board, a lot of people are unfamiliar with how to cook sheep meat or have some preconceived conceptions about taste and flavour. So we need to work on that, and we need to understand those consumers and help them understand the benefits of a lamb meal. So you heard this morning from the RMAC committee members that market access is one of the major drivers for performance. So looking across the globe, we look at all our markets and how easy are they to get access to, how easy it is to do business and what's preventing us. So we've had some great wins with our North Asian free trade agreements, but there's more work to do. So free trade and quotas is one area that we need to continue to work on, and Europe's a good example with the UK leaving Europe, that we want to get better access there. But technical market access is critical, and Lockie Hart talked about it. You know, we see China there has a number of technical market access issues, and we need to remove those to really open up our access opportunities. The competitor, and I'm just going to use an example of China and how important market access is. So in 2013, Australia and a number of countries received significantly better access, and you can see that rapid growth there of imports. But late 2015, Brazil also received access, and you can see the blue line in the last column, which is the year-to-date 2016 figures, that them coming into the market has really grown that market and changing the dynamics of the China market. And while I'm on China, I'm just going to use a bit of an example, a drill down from all those examples I was telling you that we look at, and what does that mean in China. So China's a massive country. It's huge. It's we like to think of it as one country but many markets. It's very complex, very different religions and types of people across the country, different cuisines and different economic demographics. So we need to look at those and then drill down to where are the opportunities. We hear a lot about the growing middle class and the size of the middle class, and we need to understand that for our sector, for our red meat proteins, who can afford our beef or lamb in China. So when we're looking at that, we look at people over the $35,000 again, the magic number, and we see that only about 3% of the urban population is in that bracket. So it's a very small proportion, about 7.6 million people. There's good growth in that sector, as I showed earlier, and it's an important sector that we need to keep focusing on. But it's still a growing and developing market, and we need to understand that. We also need to understand it comes with a lot of challenges. China has a developing cold chain. So getting product from Australia or from the port in China through to the customer, there's a huge amount of challenge. And on the screen there, you can see that there's stacked sheep carcasses there, a guy driving around with a trolley on the back of his bike, delivering sheep carcasses, and then just the handling of product in the country is pretty bad. There's boxes thrown in the back of a truck that's probably not even turned on. So we need to understand that. And what that means is that the frozen product is their preferred through the supply chain because they can manage it better, but that becomes how they're presenting the product at the retail shelf. And what we want to see is that we want to see that improve, because we know the Chinese consumer's number one driver for purchasing beef is freshness. So the top two categories there, freshness and use by date, all about how fresh the product is. You watch a Chinese consumer walk through the retail cabinet, you see them looking, touching and wanting to get close to the meat and understand it's fresh. So selling tubs full of frozen product up there isn't going to work. So we need to find ways to break the market access barriers to get chilled product in there and get it to the consumer in a way that we want to sell our product to them. But however, we've got some really great strengths in China. Across all the metrics that we measure, whether it's our quality, the guaranteed safe to eat, or willingness to pay more, we're number one. But it's a competitive environment. There's a lot of players in there, and the other international competitors are right on our heels. So we need to work to improve that and get Australia out in front. So looking forward, how do I see the opportunities in China, and what do we need to do? We just need to continue to build a better understanding of the consumer, who they are, where they shop, where they live, how much money they've got to purchase, and how we can get them attracted to our product. And we're doing continual research in that space to narrow down the opportunities in China. But we've got to continue to secure better market access. We need to look at promoting our integrity systems and differentiate ourselves from those other South American nations, and continue to engage and educate the customer about what Australia means and how we are different from the rest of the world and why our product is a value proposition for them. So in summary, global demand is strong, and we see some really good outlook in the global markets, but it's incredibly competitive, and we need to continue to look at our market intelligence, our market access issues, and our marketing and promotion programs to optimise that. And knowing what the customer wants is key. So we need to understand our customer, we need to be able to service those customers and deliver what they're looking at and communicate our points of difference to them and help them communicate that to their consumer. So, thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about to enter a question and answer period, but there's a couple that have joined the presenters that have joined or sitting on the panel. Lisa Sharp, MLA's Chief Marketing and Communications Officer, and also Michael Crowley, MLA's new General Manager for Producer Consultation and Adoption. Lisa and her team are responsible for delivering MLA's world-class data and insights, marketing strategy and communications for the Australian red meat industry, both domestically and around the globe. Michael Crowley and his team have been given the responsibility for identifying research priorities for the industry and driving adoption and uptake of research outcomes. The focus of Michael's team is the commercial drivers that improve farm profitability. Michael's team is also responsible for managing MLA's investment in Meat Standards Australia, beef and sheep genetics and genomics, and industry consultation through our regional research. So, ladies and gentlemen, open up for questions, and when designated, state your name and then indicate where your question is going. Damien.
Damien Jensen, Bairnsdale. I'd like to address a question to Lisa Sharp. In the co-marketing budget, I noticed that over $200,000 was awarded to Tees, JBS and AA Co. These are major producers, they're processors and they are wholesalers. Why are we subsidising non-retail people who are quite big and ugly enough to stand on their own feet?
Thanks for your question, Damien. In response, I'll just make sure everybody understands what the collaborative marketing program is, and that's where we will match individual contributions with levy dollars. It's a very, very tight eligibility criteria, and the companies that you name, they all have branded products, individually branded products that go to here in the domestic market and also export markets. And through the collaborative marketing program, what we're seeking to do is to remove some of the risk of entry into those markets and building those brands in particular markets. All those brands have a really strong foundation of product of Australia, and we certainly believe there are halo benefits for the broader product of Australia on the back of those collaborative marketing investments. But certainly it is branded product in international markets and here in Australia.
Thanks very much, Lisa. I've got some questions here that have come through on the live stream, or one or two questions come through on the live stream, so I'll ask them while other people are coming towards the mics. Michael Crowley, there's been some developments in the genetic space recently with the formation of a new genetics task force. What's the aim of that task force and what does MLA expect it to deliver?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And so what we've done is we've formed a National Livestock Genetics Consortium. And the National Livestock Genetics Consortium is aiming to double the rate of genetic gain in our livestock industries by 2022. And the way that we'll do that is by building value chain profitability. And the only way we'll do that is by reducing cost, by getting better collaboration across research and development, and really identifying ways of seamlessly transferring information along the supply chain. So there's really 4 key strategies that we're working on in the genetic space, and that's identifying disruptive technologies. It's about driving culture change. It's about open data source platforms, and it's about world-leading R&D. And so when we're thinking about disruptive technologies, it's about cost-effective genomic tests. It's really about linking our genetic tests to those key commercial drivers that actually return value back through the supply chain, and really that full traceability to actual value. So if we can reduce costs, we're really going to drive adoption of that technology, and that's going to add a lot of value to our production system. But then in terms of culture change, it's really about how do we get the value proposition right for the commercial sector to value genetics. I think at the moment we've got really low amounts of actual commercial data going back into our genetic programs, so back into breed plan, and the Beef Information Nucleus program is the biggest source of actual carcass data getting linked back in through to our seed stock genetics. And so if we can actually get a real culture change around how we value genetics, we're going to solve some of those issues. And what we're doing is engaging the users of the commercial technology to actually help drive our R&D priorities and making sure we've got very clear alignment with adoption when we're investing in research. In terms of open data platforms, that's really about getting our databases that currently exist to talk to each other and allowing and creating that opportunity for the people who own the data to share the data where there's mutual benefit in doing so. And so that's really going to disrupt some of our current models. It's going to lead to the ability to have multi-breed analysis I think the sheep industry have done a tremendous job when you look at their model in terms of, multi-breeds all on one platform, and the beef industry can learn a little bit from that, and we're going to see some investment in multi-breed analysis. And around world-leading R&D, well, the first round of our project call resulted in 23 projects coming forward, $40 million of investment, and most of that, so well over $38 million, was actually applying through the MLA Donor Company for funding. We're actually seeing our levy investment in the sheep industry being invested through the sheep CRC, and there was only a couple of projects that were requesting levy dollars from the beef side that's well within our budget that's approved through the annual implementation plan. So we're actually seeing a lot of private money coming together through the research institutions, through the universities, being leveraged through the donor company to really ramp up the rate of genetic gain. So it's actually a pretty exciting space to be in.
Thanks, Michael. Blair, microphone 3, I think.
Blair Angus, just following on from that, Michael, who's determining that genetic gain? And really, ultimately, our ultimate judge should be the consumer, and all of our sensory testing now is quite old. Do you have any plans to perhaps put it back into the real judge's hands and determine what that genetic gain is?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really good question, Blair. I think that's where, when we're really talking about aligning the key commercial drivers, it is actually putting the consumer first. And when we're looking at what's going to drive genetic gain, it's about delivering better outcomes for consumers. It's the only point where money's entering the supply chain. And so when we look at what are those commercial drivers that increase value, it's improving market compliance specifications. I mean, every percentage increase in MSA compliance is an additional $16 million returned to the industry. So that's where really we need to get that genetic investment aligning with our consumer outcomes.
Thanks, Michael. Anyone else got questions? Want to make your way to a mic while you're in the room? And while you're thinking about doing that, I've got another one, the second one. It's actually for you again, Michael. MSA adoption across the beef industry is really taking off. In terms of beef, where does MSA go next, and what's happening with MSA in the sheep meat industry?
Thanks, Jeff. I knew I wasn't going to get off lightly being down the end here. But so look, what we've done is we've worked with industry. We've got a beef and sheep MSA task forces, and we've developed a 5-year plan that's really set some key priorities for the program. So by 2020, we want to ensure that all cattle and sheep are eligible for MSA grading. So we're looking at identifying the blockers in the pathways to at least create the opportunity for all livestock to be MSA graded. We want to actually make sure that more cuts per carcass graded are being packed as MSA, and that's enabling a fitness for purpose for all cuts to match a consumer outcome. And that ultimately is also going to add a lot of value to the supply chain. One of the key changes is that we're looking for brand owners to drive the success of MSA. So MSA is a quality system from paddock to plate that allows us to make decisions on what impacts on eating quality, and brand owners offer the point of difference. So we're looking to support brand owners to drive that point of difference and add value to those brands that ultimately delivers better returns through the supply chain. And we need to work with producers to get a better understanding of the program. So we're really working on moving from an awareness of MSA through to really a deeper understanding, so that when all of the technologies come together, we're actually able to use that data to make better decisions about what drives profit. From the sheep industry point of view, we're really relying on the outcomes out of the objective measurement, rural R&D for profit, to deliver us tools to be able to measure eating quality traits at chain speed that will allow us to build a cuts-based model for lamb and sheep meat. That will also help us develop an index, like we've done with beef, to measure the eating quality of the flock, and when we can actually measure improvements in eating quality over time in the sheep industry. So we're looking at how does the eating quality of older categories of sheep impact on consumer acceptability. We're looking at the cuts-based model in lamb and objective technology that allows us to really drive some change in that space.
Thanks, Michael. Peter on mic 2.
Yeah, Peter Hughes, Georgina. Yeah, whilst I congratulate you on all the work you're doing, and I think it's wonderful work, but I think we're forgetting something. I think we forget that a lot of Australia is a long, long way from anywhere, and I suppose you're aware that there are areas in Western Australia where once you put a beast, before you put a beast on a truck, it's 3,000 k before he reaches a processing plant. I think that's, and certainly some of our very productive country, like the Barkly Tableland, it's 1,400 k to a processing plant. To put an animal that's been looked after and then put him on a truck, it's like running a marathon before you kill him. And we talk about all these hairy-fairy ideas about eating quality, and then we go and do that to them. Not only from an eating quality angle, it's also an animal welfare angle. Yep. Whether we start to look at air-conditioned trucks or something, we've had the transport industry came a long way about 30 years ago, and now it's hit the wall. It's not improving anymore, and I think there is probably ways that we can improve those trucks, or we can start processing out in those areas. And I can see that there is work being done on processing, and maybe we can do it. But at this stage, any processing plant off the coast went broke in the past. Maybe that won't happen in the future because of foreign labour and probably better ways of doing it. But there's so much of Australia that's so productive and so healthy and green and that's so good. But it's just, if you live out there, you feel quite forgotten. Some places, the roads are atrocious, and it is a battle. I know one of our places, at one stage, they were 6 hours on a truck before they got to the boundary. These are the sort of things that we go on and get in front of ourselves a bit, I think. And, there's a lot of cattle being carted a long way in Australia, and it is an issue, and it is very expensive. And I'm sure that we could go back and do a bit of work on our transport or our processing and get it all a little bit more into perspective. Thank you.
You respond to that, Michael?
Yeah, so it's a really good point. And when we look at our work around long distance transport and the impact on eating quality, we've done some work where we've transported livestock up to 36 hours, including then an additional 12 hours in lairage, and that's where the window is at the moment. I think when we look at some of the other pathways to slaughter, we actually are looking at when we're outside of those boundaries, and when we look at sale yards, we're looking at boats coming across from King Island to Tasmania. We're yet to do some rail transport work. But one of the things that we need to think about and how commercial it is and how practical it is depends on, I think, the relationship a lot of times as well. But we look at then the recovery times, at whether we can get livestock closer to the plant, and then how do we actually manage those animals appropriately to get them to back up to where their muscle glycogen levels were at the time in which they were loaded. And then also, if they do fall out of that window, what is the impact for the consumer? And if we can measure that and monitor that, that's what we're looking for when we're talking about the eligibility of livestock for grading. It's about being able to predict those outcomes regardless of pathway to slaughter. And there's some, I guess there's going to be some good learnings coming out of that work as well.
Thanks, Michael. Kev, on one.
I have the solution for you, Michael and Peter.
Perfect.
Of course, the feedlot industry, as our president this morning so aptly put, is an integral part of the beef industry. And I can assure you, and in fact at Sandalwood Feedlot, we have conducted a lot of trial work on cattle that have been moved around from out around Birdsville, etc., fat cattle, channel fat cattle. And we've been able to put those cattle on feed for a minimum period of 21 days, because if you look at the science, it takes 21 days to rehydrate an animal. So the work's been done, and I'm not trying to get a job for myself. I'm only here to help, as some politicians. But I can assure you the work has been done. The science has come out of the United States. To rehydrate an animal is 21 days. And we've done it with some cooperative cattle producers from the Channel Country, and it works particularly well because we know that by the time you transport an animal about 1,500 k, I'm only going to talk about the work that we've done, you've had a shrink in the order of 15 to 20%. So by the time you rehydrate it, and then you only ship it a small way to those coastal city abattoirs, you're looking at less than 5 to 10%. So the answer's there, and we can help you.
Yep.
But I actually have a question, if I may, to Jane. Give you a break, Michael. Jane, for better or worse, you might know me as the chair of LPA. And I'm most interested, you said that as we speak, these systems, the integrated systems are being transferred across to your program. The question that I have, and one that we've grappled with for quite a while, is, and you may not have the answer, but I'd like to know if you do, is how will MLA, LLIS, fund the integration of these very, very important programs? I'm sorry if I put you on the spot, but if I have, I'm happy to put that question on notice.
Sure, and perhaps if Joe quickly from NLIS has anything further to add, but certainly I guess the commitment from MLA and creating the subsidiary company is to make sure that the integration of those systems happens quite seamlessly. In terms of the funding associated with it, there's a commitment there to actually support that process. So at the moment, that's pretty much all I'm aware of in terms of the strategy, but if you've got the answer, then...
Righto, thanks, Jane. Microphone 4, Ian McCamley.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I, like Kev, also have the answer for Peter. It's called decentralisation of beef processing. And I'll give you a good example of it. When the Lakes Creek Meatworks was built in Rockhampton, be meatworks pretty close to your hometown, Jeffrey, that was 1871. Now cast your mind back to 1871. You know, and anything you do in life and you want to make a bit of money, logistics comes into it. It's the king. Get logistics right and that'll underpin what you do. And here we are, we sit there and we lug cattle from bloody miles and miles. And do you realise that livestock transports are the most inefficient transport in the country? They operate 52% loaded, 48% empty. It's just dumb. It costs you 5 times as much to transport a live animal than it does to transport a box of beef in a fridge van. You know, we've got, and these meatworks by and large are located in suburbs. You know, we're trying to work out ways of getting road trains through Rockhampton to get them through suburbs to plants. They stop at 27 sets of traffic lights and we wonder why we get dark cutters, for God's sake. I mean, you pull up at McDonald's in Beenleigh, you know, on the way to the Gold Coast, to have a burger and all you can smell is the meatworks. You know, it's just incredible that they're still there. The land's worth a fortune. We need to be working with governments to try and move these plants out into regional areas. And the regional areas have all grown. Everything's growing. All the country's been developed out there. They're all prime cattle. When I was a kid in Western Queensland, you went and bought store cattle now. Then you can't buy them anymore because they're all prime. They're all finished because the country's been developed. So let's catch up with our processing, build some brand new meatworks out there off the coast and start saving a bit of money and saving a few lives on roads and everything else that comes with it.
Couldn't agree more, Ian. We probably should have had that question this morning, but when we had the peak council guys here. But yeah, Michael.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Mick Hewitt Cattle Australia. I'll change the tone a little bit, and I just was hoping to direct a question towards Lisa. So for whether it be right or wrong, I guess I come from an operational background but have the good fortune, or possibly in some people's world, the misfortune of spending a lot of time in urban areas these days. I was quite intrigued to understand what MLA's response has been, or were you aware of in the first place, and what has your, or what has been, or is your planned reaction to the 3-part SBS series that was recently run by Matthew Evans? Okay. What I find concerning as a beef producer, who, as I say, has the luxury of living amongst our urban customers, is to a lot of the good presentations that have been presented here today. Of course, there's some fantastic initiatives that MLA do, and that is certainly not in question. The question is, but why, when I walk down the street of Brisbane and I'm constantly stopped by my colleagues who know I'm involved in the beef industry, and the first thing they speak about is the SBS series. And so I would have thought that would be a higher priority than specific targeted campaigns that are currently run by MLA. So I think it's a case of, the question is, were we aware of it? How are we reacting to it? And are we going to continue to be reactive or proactive? Because to the producer, it seems we're very reactive in these types of scenarios. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Mick. With respect to the Matthew Evans SBS program, we are absolutely aware of that program. We were contacted approximately 11 months ago when SBS was starting the program, and what we wanted to do was ensure that we could provide, we wanted to be constructive, and we wanted to make sure that fact-based information was made available to the producers of the show. Indeed, MLA, on behalf of industry, coordinated a number of interviews with members across the production right through to retailing. So we were aware of the program. We certainly, in conjunction with the peak industry councils, who will typically are the champion for the producer when there is, perhaps an issue, behind the scenes working very closely with the peak industry councils in the event that there was very adverse media reaction to the SBS program. So knew well in advance, and there'd been quite a series of preparation in consultation with the peak industry councils. The report aired last Thursday, I think it was last Thursday evening or the week before, sorry. Immediately, we have media monitoring and social media monitoring, and we watch very carefully reactions to the program. Not so good things about red meat are unfortunately not new. In our opinion, there was not a lot of new news in that program, and the distinct and indeed absolute lack of social media pickup and mass media pickup meant we didn't want to throw fuel on the fire, and certainly our recommendation, and in conjunction with the peak industry councils, was not to get on. There were a few inaccuracies. There were things that were not ideal, but we did not want to add to the fire. The reality is there is a very small number of consumers in Australia who are outraged about the practices of the red meat industry, as indeed they are with many other industries. There's a small group of consumers who are concerned, but the vast majority are curious, or you know what, it's not a real driver for them. So our job is to monitor very carefully how many are outraged, how many are concerned, always make sure we have compelling evidence available about the very good practices within the red meat industry, and to work with the peak industry councils and other influencers. Mick, if I'd gotten on television Friday morning and said, look, there were some gross inaccuracies in that program, and it was Lisa Sharp from Meat and Livestock Australia, it's not credible. When other influencers speak about our industry, and particularly when producers speak about other producers' good practices, that's far more credible. So we're aware, very, very strong plan of attack. I guess in addition to always being ready for those types of issues, it is MLA, whether it be in nutrition, in stewardship of our natural resource base, we are always building evidence and ensuring that evidence is in the hands of influencers and policymakers. I trust that answers your question. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Last one before we break. Kev on mic 1, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, for better or worse, I think for better, the experience, I was part of that, Sandalwood, not I. Sandalwood was part of that program. I thought that beef, I watched all 3 programs. He absolutely knocked the crap out of chicken. He belted the pig industry as though mercilessly, I believe. But I think beef come out of it very, very well. And I'm sure that most producers in this room would have friends, people that they associate with that are nothing to do with the land. And I've had several people call me up, very kindly said how well I did, but more importantly said beef did not get bashed up. And I agree totally with Lisa. I think, and I can report, MLA, Matt, called me in advance and said, Kev, we're on standby. If you need help, if you get a bashing from the media or whatever, we're there to help you. So MLA was prepared. We were prepared. I can tell you, I got 2 daughters that have bloody been preparing me for 6 months. So we were prepared, and I really think, and I commend MLA because they did call me, I didn't call them. And they were ready on standby. And I agree with Lisa that we come out of it. I think we had Matthew Evans and his film crew and that at our home during the filming of that. We had a wonderful barbecue and we made sure that they had all the facts. They wanted to look at HGPs in cattle. The most productive thing that we've had, Michael, for the last 20 years that I know was HGPs in the cattle industry. And they wanted to knock the crap out of that. We talked them out of it, in a sense, I think. We let that slip. They really wanted to attack antibiotics. Oh, you feedlotters, you fill these cattle up with antibiotics. Whoa, hang on. We made sure, and I'm sure that MLA were involved in making sure that they had the facts. Now, if they had have, I believe, and I had the discussion with Matt, if they attack the facts and really get it screwed up, then we should go and crawl all over them. They didn't do that, and so I think the best thing to do, silence, like when you get home late at night, when you've been out playing cards late, best thing to do is come in as quietly as you can. So I think Lisa's got it right. I think we should just go along quietly.
Thanks very much, Kev. Look, that concludes the question. If you could keep the applause going for our panel up here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And look, don't forget, we're going to break for afternoon tea. We'll be back in the room at about 3:25. And on your way out, don't forget to register. So please, if you haven't registered, make sure you do. Thank you.